All right, so here we have March 7th, and I see a man wearing a Burberry shirt, Burberry sweater, right? So Corey, this is a big year for you. The year of the Mamba is a great year for you. I mean, you're knocking on the door to consultant, which is pretty awesome, and you're running an amazing business, but more importantly, you're about to become a married man in a couple months here, Corey. So pre-congratulations to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Apologies if the condo looks a little messy. We got wedding stuff all over here. We got this is going to be a flower wall. So we got like flowers here that are going to cover this thing for pictures and whatnot. And we got like an easel over here and some backdrops. We got stuff all over.
Wow, married man. I mean, life is getting serious, huh?
Yeah, it comes at you fast.
Yeah, and I mean, I've known you for a few years now, and I've always appreciated you've come to me for more than just business advice. You're like, hey, listen, I want to get this right. I want to get the relationship, the most important relationship, in this earthly life of mine here. I want to get this right, and so I'm real proud of the man you've become, and I'm very excited for your big day. But again, big year for you. 2024 is a big year, so. I appreciate you hopping on this call. And I did ask, kind of the loaded question. The topic I wanted to give you is just really landing studs. Like we all want to hire game changers in our business, right? Especially May is coming around the corner. The 2024 graduates are coming through our doors now. And when the stud shows up, we want to land that person. We want to attract, hire, retain that person, get that person to do well. So I'm just going to pass the microphone over to you. Any thoughts you have on really, recruiting, training, developing the studs? We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So number one, I appreciate you having me on and I hope I can pay it forward for all Jamie and everybody just even in your organization that I've talked to has helped me. I hope that I can, return the favor here. I got a lot of thoughts. I'll start with a quick little story. And I guess the message of the story is the most important thing for recruiting is how you show up every day to every interview, right? So when I first moved to Cincinnati, any of you guys old enough to remember Roderick Grant, Roddy Rowe, Rod? Some of you guys, I'm
I'm
sure.
old enough.
I know Jamie. So I partnered with Rod. And when I moved to Cincinnati, I knew the one person that moved with me and Rod became my best friend very quickly. And Rod would say, I'm going to LA for a weekend. And then I wouldn't see him for a month. He would just stay wherever he was doing stuff. And I love Rod. But I remember I was going through a recruiting funk. I felt like I don't know what I was doing. I was trying really hard. I had been shadow, like I called him. This is before Zoom. So this is how old this is. I called him on my phone and I put it on speakerphone and I like hid it under my desk so he could listen to my interviews. Like I was really trying to figure out what was wrong. And what happened was after about a couple weeks of this, I walked into the lobby to grab an interview and Rod was standing there and I hadn't seen him in like a month. And I'm like, Rod, what's up, dude? How are you? And we started talking. I'm like, oh, wait, I have this interview. Hey, Corey, nice to meet you. Let's go back and do the interview. And we'll catch up, when I get out. And I ran the best interview that I'd run of the month. And what happened was I was excited to see my buddy. And like a light bulb went off right after the interview, ran a good interview. I was like, that was good. I chatted with Rod and I was like, I feel like I got my interview mojo back. That was great. And I was like, what was different? I'm just excited. And so how you show up to your interviews is the most important thing. And, when you're in management, you're running lots and lots of interviews, it's easy to it gets monotonous, just like anything else that you do a lot, right? But how you show up to interviews is the most important thing. If you can show up excited, ready to go, prepared, like you're just going to run a much better interview. Same person, same skill set, excited versus, again, I was working hard. I was like really trying to figure out what I was doing wrong, but like I just wasn't excited. I was stressing myself out and frustrated. So here's maybe like a little tip I can give you guys that might create some excitement in how you think about going into every interview. Do you guys know how much the average leader profits an office if they're on standards for a year? So you got a leader with you 12 months on standards most of the time. Anybody want to like do some math? Anybody know how much you make when you have somebody on standards for your office for a week? An office profit?
My rough math would tell me 35,000 bucks.
30 to 35K, depending on your standards. So that means every interview you run is a potential $30,000 in your pocket. It's a little different way of looking at it than like, I got an interview to do. And I think that that's just like a good way or a good perspective to have. You never know when your next leader's walking. Like literally every interview you do could be your next leader in your office, right? And people don't like link. We tell the guys link paycheck to purpose, but like interviewing, link paycheck to purpose. Like every interview, I'm like, this is a potential 30 grand. If I can get 3 new hires today that end up being with me for a while, I got 90 grand over the next year. Right. So maybe something that might help you guys, just getting excited to run interviews. I think that that's the most important thing is showing up excited. Like you could give somebody a script, right? But like, here's what I say is like Michael Sessions doesn't know my interview script. But if Michael ran an interview for me, I'm pretty sure he'd knock it out of the park. Right. He doesn't need my script. He needs to be Michael Sessions. Right. And so I just to iterate the point again, like how you show up to your interviews and your level of excitement is largely going to dictate how your results go. And Julie Straight actually said something to me via email last week. I saw her in Miami. We did like an org event for Ken Lear's org. We won that Royal Rumble competition and we did some meetings and she spoke and I emailed her after and she replied back something about recruiting. And she said, remember that you'll recruit at your confidence level. So the more confidence you have in an interview, the sharper the candidate that you're going to attract. And I think that it's a really good thing. Like recruiting starts with the story that you're telling yourself about your business. And so when I was a new manager, I like goofed this up pretty bad. So I opened my office and in Ben's office, we were like #1 on the campaign. We were crushing it. And then I'd run an interview and tell these guys how we were the best. And they'd come in and see 5 people in atmosphere and be like, what the hell's this? Right. Well, you can like create a good story for yourself, no matter what situation you're in. And then you need to paint that picture for the people that you're interviewing. So like right now, I'm rebuilding my office. I promoted out, a few months ago. And when I'm interviewing people, I'll ask them this question, but it kind of like paints a picture for them. I let them know, hey, so full transparency, we're kind of rebuilding our home base here in Cincinnati. We just took on a new project. We set an expansion team and a ton of great people on that. So I'm really looking for the people that we can kind of build around here. There's 3 different types of roles that I look to fill in the office. The first is the life of the party. Somebody that's social, outgoing, energetic, they're great for culture and environment. The second type of person I call the organizer. This is somebody that's really great at planning things out, really great at preparing things, super on top of details. The third type of person is what I call the pace setter. It's somebody that's really competitive, wants to be #1, and is really just going to set the pace and set the tone on the marketing and sales numbers and that side of things. Which of those 3 buckets would you say that you could see yourself like naturally falling into? So it tells me a little bit about the person, but it also sets the expectation of like, they come into my Atmo and we have, 5 to 10 guys. They're like, this is what I was expecting. Right. So even if you have a small office, you can recruit really sharp people. You just want to make sure that you're telling them a good story and painting a clear picture. And that starts with the story that you're telling yourself. Because a lot of the times when I struggled with recruiting, I didn't have the best story about where my office was at, which came through in my confidence in the interview. And so the first thing I would say, outside of be excited, is make sure that you've got, a good story going on about where your office is at and where you guys are going, and make sure that you're painting that picture for people that you're interviewing. So that's kind of my opening thoughts. I didn't know if you guys had specific questions. I mean, I could just kind of go on about whatever, but I didn't know if there's anything specific that you guys had questions about or wanted me to answer for you.
Yeah, I got a question, Corey. Thanks for hopping on. So
Yeah.
I think in terms of like the threes, so there's first 3 days when they start in the business, first 3 weeks and the first 3 months. And there's different reasons people leave in those times. If
Yeah.
you have someone really sharp, what are conversations you having in that first 3 days, in the first 3 weeks and first 3 months? How do those change? What are you doing to focus on building a good relationship with them and really getting them bought into the business and your vision?
Yeah, really good question. So we had a Top Gun event last year in my org, and I told people you want to think about somebody's tenure in your company, kind of like the 5 steps to a conversation, right? So we're on retail. In your intro, what are you trying to do if you're on retail?
I'm not on retail.
I think I saw
I think
Steven
it's to
said,
break the ice.
Steven, what'd you say?
You got to get them to stop.
Yeah. So your intro, icebreaker, you're trying to get the customer to stop and talk to you, right? So somebody's first week in my business, first week or two, kind of like the 3 days in there, I'm trying to get them to stop, right? I'm trying to get them to have their feet planted and here with me. Does that make sense? Because just like in the field, you're going to get some really easy stops, and you're going to have some that like you got to really have good beast factors, timing, icebreaker to like get them to stop. And new starts, you're going to have some that walk in the door and they're here to do this. And then you're going to have a lot of them that are trying it out, and they're going to feel out the first week or two. And you got some that are like, I don't think I want to do this, but I don't have another job offer. So let me, go see what this is about. And so when you're trying to get stops in the field, you focus on beast factors and mirroring. So what I tell my guys and what I focus on is in somebody's first week or two, beast factors, mirroring. We're creating excitement. We're getting to know somebody, and we're figuring out how or why did you start? What do you want out of this? And we're painting a picture how we can give that to somebody. So if I've got a really sharp person in their first few days, I might grab breakfast, lunch, maybe just a quick one-on-one in the office, but I'm taking time to like get to know them, figure out why they're here, and figure out how I can facilitate that for them. So I want to first get their feet planted and them here, like I'm going to get promoted out of training or whatever you call it, right? The first little promo. So there's your intro. Your short story is now somebody's got their feet planted, they're here. We want to get them promoted, but more than promoted, we want to get somebody that's consistent in the field and can make $1,000, every single week. That's our short story. So for us, our next step, once we get a stop, we're looking to get a zip code. For a lot of you guys on like AT&T Spectrum, you're probably looking to get like an address check is like the next step, right? Stop, address check. Make sense? How do we do that? Well, the biggest things that you're going to focus on is air triangle, overturning objections, right? So I teach my guys, once somebody's stopped, they're like, I'm here, I want to get promoted, right? Now we're going to focus on getting them there, right? Which is a lot of giving coaching. But like when I tell people give coaching, think of it like an air triangle, right? If somebody gives you an objection and you answer it and go back to resume, but you don't use any impulse factors, do you create any excitement? Are you going to get to the address check, to the zip code? Probably not. So when I'm giving coaching to somebody, we're recapping numbers at the end of the night. Not only am I giving coaching, but I'm getting them excited to follow through on that coaching, which is part of our job, right? So when I've got that sharp person that's trying to get consistent, let's say I'm breaking down, Jeff, let's say I'm breaking down your day, hey, so go over numbers. Focus here is overturning objections, let's say, right? So here's the deal. You got this many stops, you got this many zips, this many closes. If we can close this gap between stops and zip codes, these 2 closes would have been 5, 6, 7 closes today, right? Just math. So like, again, I'm using like my NRG numbers, or like 60 stops, 20 zip codes, 5 to 10 closes. Let's say somebody's got 8 zip codes and 2 or 3 closes. So I'm like, if we can turn this 8 into a 20, don't do anything else different, you're going to make $300 tomorrow, right? Now, I know that you want to get a new car. I know that you want to get a new apartment in the next few months. The way we're going to do that is by getting you over $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 paychecks. If you do nothing different tomorrow besides work on that air triangle and get it tight, you're going to be able to do that very quickly, right? And then I tell my guys, inspect what you expect. So when I'm breaking down somebody's day, not only do I give them homework, I'll practice pitch. And not only will I just say overturn objections, I'll go through practice pitch, tweak the objection, tell them practice this. And then I have them come in 15 minutes before meetings start the next day to go over it and make sure that they did the homework. So I'm like really high direction with new starts over somebody's first 2, 3, 4 weeks as they're learning how to get consistent in the field. And typically it might even be a little bit longer than that. My philosophy is I break down someone's day until they can tell me exactly what I would tell them, right? Because even if somebody's doing well, there's like 3 steps to the game. You can do it while somebody's there with you, helping you. You can do it on your own, solo. And once you show us you can do that consistently, now we're going to get you involved with training where you're going to have to be teaching it to somebody else. So I'm breaking down numbers. I'm following up on homework, but I want them to be able to tell me what I'm going to tell them, because that lets me know they're ready to start training. Not only can they help themselves, they have their own self-awareness, they know what they have to focus on and get better at for the next day, but they can teach somebody else how to do that same thing. You know, you can't give somebody what you don't have. And a common mistake I see people make is people do well in the field and they're like, don't break down people's days. Or if they do, they kind of like half-ass it because they're like, they're good. This guy's making $200-300 a day. But that guy isn't going to be able to know how to break down his new guy's day 2-3 weeks down the road. So I would say that that's the biggest thing that I saw. 3 days intro, 3 weeks, really high direction, inspect what you expect, tie their goals and what they're working towards into doing the homework, get them excited to do the homework, right? And then once I got that, somebody's consistent. Now we got 3 months. You know, I was just talking to one of my owners the other day about this. If somebody turns over in their first 3 to 4 months after they got promoted, 9 times out of 10, it's one of 2 things. The first one is they don't know how to plan and prep their week very well. And so they get burnt out, right? And so I drive this point home to my guys to make sure that once somebody's promoted, again, we're still working with them a little bit, but it's really important that you teach somebody how to set weekly goals, plan and prep your week. Because what happens is a lot of the time people don't know how to do that. And when they get into a new job, especially a job where they're trying to do really well and earn promotions, they're going to stay late. They might start coming in early. They might work an extra day, right? Now, all of a sudden, all of their personal life gets thrown to the wayside. And if you do that for a week, usually not a big deal. If you do it for 2 weeks, probably won't see any problems. But when you do that 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row, now you're in some shit. Now you got a mountain of personal things that you need to do that you've been neglecting. And you're like, this job is just too much, right? We've all had people tell us that. And it's not that the field is too hard. It's not that they can't do that. Like, they know how to do the field. They've shown us they can do it. But if you don't teach your guys how to like plan out your week and put all of your personal things that you need and want to do into your weekly schedule, then they're going to neglect those things and start to feel overwhelmed. And that's when people turn over in the first 3 to 4 months. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I see people, or the second reason why I see people turn over in the first 3 to 4 months is people don't go over a break even with them and teach them how to manage their money. Because if you don't do that, again, somebody that's never had any kind of commission or performance-based position, they get a $1,300 paycheck, they blow their extra money, they get sick for a couple days, they get a crappy paycheck, and they're like, I can't pay my bills. And I'm like, if you did a break even, it's like, you need this much. You made a paycheck that was this much. Where did this extra money go? So you got to teach somebody how to, hey, here's your break even. And more than that, set it aside, save it, right? Because you might get sick. You might have an off week, right? So we want to build up that savings. But I would say those are the two biggest reasons that people turn over in those first 3 to 4 months. So I like really drive that home to my guys. As people get promoted, you need to teach them how to plan out their week and how to, like, when I say plan out your week, I mean, not only set goals for the office, but like personal goals, getting your stuff done outside of the office. And I got to teach them how to do a break even and manage their money. Because if you do those things, then people don't get like too out of whack. And whenever I see somebody get promoted and then turn over in the first few months, it's because things just get out of whack. So hopefully that answer your question.
It did. Thank you.
Corey, with the finances and the time planning, are you doing that in office, like as a leaders meeting? Is that part of y'all's like Sunday morning, or is that a one-on-one leader and
I
then you
make
guys?
sure, I try to make sure that my leaders are doing this with their people. It's like I have like a checklist when somebody gets promoted. So like when somebody gets promoted, I follow up by the end of that week. Did we go over leader binder? Did we talk through goals as far as like the next 6 to 12 months, which they should have already probably talked to them about, but I really want them putting pen to paper and getting on the same page. Did we talk through setting weekly goals and planning out our week? And did we do a break even? That's like my checklist that if you're promoted Monday, by Friday, I'm following up. If you knocked all of it out, home run. You knocked 2 of the things out, do the other 2 next week. If you did none of them, we got to start doing these things. And I explain exactly what I just explained to you guys. I don't want to see this person turn over. I don't want to see you build a house of cards. So we got to do these things to prevent problems in the future. And if I've got like right now, we had like a good whack of recruiting. I've got like a couple people promoted this week, one the next week, a couple the next week. So when I've got a bunch of newer people, I will run meetings and stuff specifically on those things, but it's typically the leader's responsibility to do those things. But if I got a bunch of people, I'm like, yo, I got this. Watch me, take notes. You're doing it next time. Or if it's a newer leader, their first time promoting somebody, again, I'll do it. Watch me, take notes. You got it next time.
Are you teaching time management in the office? Are you doing that outside?
Yeah.
You can do that like on like a weekend, or like or I guess you guys would be like a Monday, I guess, for retail. Or when are you guys doing that systematically, or is that just like once they hit a certain milestone, that's when you're doing it?
Yeah, when they get promoted out of training is when I make sure it's like that's the week they get promoted month. So I'm weird. I'm on retail. I work a res schedule kind of because that's what I grew up on. I like it and it works. So I do Monday through Friday. If you don't hit your goals, then we're in office Saturday and we're getting out to the field. So typically our promotions happen on a Monday because we do $1,000 2 weeks in a row. So Monday's promo day. Friday, I follow up with the leader to see if we hit this checklist. And then again, if they didn't, it's like, hey, what do we got to do? And again, and that's like one-on-one time, right? So it's them getting the new guy to come in or their new leader to come in a little early so they can start going through this stuff. But if I've got multiple people, then, I might run a meeting on it for everybody. Time management, I find myself going over every 6 to 8 weeks because I could say it 10 times and I'd have to say it 10 more times.
Hey, so Corey, I'm curious to hear your talk track around this. So interview comes in, guy's a stud, just graduated, had a full ride scholarship playing, let's say, college football, full of confidence, full of charisma. has lots of options, including other ICLs in your market trying to recruit this person, what are you saying to get that person to come back to, at least explore opportunities with you?
So are you saying on the interview, or are you saying they've come in? Sorry.
Yeah, in the first time you meet the person, they're just letting you know. They're like, listen, I've got other, I'm not sure if I could start with you. I've got other opportunities I'm exploring. Obviously, they're being sought after. This is a catch here. This is a nine, and other companies recognize that, hey, this is a stud, and we're going to try to catch this person. What are you doing to differentiate yourself to get that person to come back?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say this might not be a good answer, but it's kind of circumstantial, right? Because those types of people, like, I mean, I can't tell you how many people that I thought were a stud and came in and cried in the field, right? So like, I'm hesitant, even when I like somebody and see a good, and I beat them and they're great. So like, number one, I don't put them on a pedestal, right? Because like I have people like that come in that are like, I'm amazing. And then like I have a 20-year-old kid with braces double their production in the field. And I'm like, are you amazing? So number one, I don't put them on a pedestal. And number two, like you just got to use your 4 factors of impulse for anybody, right? So with that type of person, when I've got a college athlete, I use other people in our office, other managers, right? I might talk about trips and stuff that we've gone on, but obviously Jones effect that person. Oh yeah, most of our management team played college sports. Why do you think you didn't make it to the professional level? Like, so I'm like, yeah, Jones effect, fear of loss, right? So yeah, Jones effect. I'm indifferent with that person because again, I've had people that I didn't think were going to be great that come in and knock it out of the park. I've had people I thought were going to be great that weren't, and so like I'm pretty indifferent with almost everybody just because you don't know. Like, it's weird interviewing because if like my dad's a baseball coach for our high school and he's really good. I learned a lot from him. If he watches a team like warm up and take batting practice, he can tell you who the best players on the team are, right? Like, and I could do that too. I have like a really good eye for it if I'm watching sports. But like if you took that team and sat them down and interviewed them about baseball, I couldn't fucking tell the 10th best guy from the best guy, probably. Like you might be able to, but it's tough if you're sitting and talking to somebody as opposed to seeing them actually do something. So number two, I always maintain indifference for that reason, right? Number three, like I mentioned, it's fear of loss. Every person you interview should feel lucky if they get the job, no matter if they're 19 working in a restaurant or the guy Jamie just described. And so you need to paint a picture where this position seems like it's just out of their reach. Does that make sense? So like, think about this. If there's a job posting online, let's say 2 job postings. This one says no college degree required. This one says master's degree preferred. Now the job description and the pay are identical. Which one do you think sharper people apply to? The sharper people apply to master's degree preferred because they're like, oh, I'm going to be lucky to get this job. Like I remember coming out of school and applying to jobs that I was not qualified for and like crossing my fingers. Like I wanted the stuff that I couldn't have. Right. And so I want to, in the interview, paint the picture that, again, this person is going to be lucky to get a job with me. So when I got that like stud candidate, I'm asking deep questions. I'm challenging them, right? College degree, 4.0 resume, president of this XYZ club. Number one, I use Jones effect. I'm sure all of you guys have stellar resumes, right? So when somebody comes on and they're like, I'm the shit, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I also did XYZ. Like, what do you feel like you learned from that? What were your biggest challenges? I let somebody feel like they're special when they're interviewing with me. Right. And I'm not like being rude, but like, again, I don't put anybody on a pedestal. I want that guy really badly. But like, if I don't get him, I got 10 other interviews. And I don't say that to them, but like, I want them to like feel that. Does that like make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
And so like, if they have 4 offers for other ICLs, similar positions, whatever in my market, and 3 of them are like, please come work here. And I'm like, hey, I need to know by end of day tomorrow, or I'm going to move on to another candidate. They're like, this one seems like it's harder to get. That's probably the one I should go with. Again, kind of like circumstantial. I've had other people that I really connect with and I think would be a good fit where I might do something out of the ordinary. I don't do shadows, but if I have somebody that's on the fence and I really like, I'll have them come into Atmo. I'll have them meet people in the office. I'll sit down with them after and do like a 15, 20-minute in-person final interview. I don't typically do that, but that's also going to be a really good tell for me because I've had people come in that I think are going to be sweet and they get in Atmo and they just like look like a deer in headlights and they're awkward. And it saves me the trouble of paying for a background check. Right. And I've got other people that, again, I'm not 100% sure if they come in and they like meet with me after Atmo and they're like, this is awesome. I'm in. Right. So another thing you could do is if you like, I don't typically have people come in to shadow, but if I got a sharp candidate that I like, then I might do that. Or even somebody that I'm on the fence about. That's like another, tool in the Batman tool belt you could use. If you're trying to land that sharp person. So that couple thoughts. I'm not 100% sure if that answers your question, Jamie, but that's my general thought is I don't put anybody on a pedestal. I want somebody to feel lucky, like they got a job with me.
Yeah. Good answer, Corey. Well, Corey, I know a bunch of us have to bounce onto another call, but hey, we appreciate you. I know again, the next 3 months is going to be a blur for you as you're ready to walk down that aisle. So again, major congratulations to you, and we hope to see you on stage for your OC promotion sometime very soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you guys for having me. I hope I gave you some stuff that you can use.
Thank you. Appreciate it. See you guys. See you in
Have a good night,
Dallas.
guys.